The story begins with the protagonist climbing a mountain, after being deceived by his editor, who said he needed experience to improve the quality of his story, and while creating a plan to take revenge against his editor, the iron bar that he was leaning on broke, and he ended up falling off the mountain. At that moment, he realized that instead of daydreaming about his book, he should have paid more attention to the things around him. Then when he woke up because of the great pain he felt in his body, he saw that for some reason his hands were tied, and in front of him there was a beautiful girl drooling while looking at him. At the same time, she started to say in a strange language that he had a very tender meat, which would be very greasy if it were roasted, and hearing this the Prat despaired, but if it was one of my subscribers in his place, they would be excited in a situation like this. Just when I thought that this would be at the end, the feline girl cut the rope that was tying his arms, and said that even if she is hungry, she cannot eat people, and taking a closer look at her appearance, the Prat noticed that she had animal ears and also a tail. At the same time he finally realized that he had been sent to an insakai, but his way of going to an insakai was a little different than usual since he didn't get hit by the Sama truck. Then looking around, he was surprised that this place looked like it belonged to caveman times, and taking a look outside the hut, he saw several humanoid beings with the appearance of animals, and with all this information, he realized that he had been sent to an insakai where society was primitive. At the same time the girl's father, who is the head of the village, appeared, and asked what was his reason for being in your village. Guys, I forgot to say, but the Prota still doesn't understand their language, so he has no idea what they are saying in front of him, and because of his thin and delicate appearance, along with the fact that the sorcerer wants to see this boy, the head of the village started to think that the Prota was from a big village, and while he was going towards the sorcerer, the people of that village were surprised by the fact that he didn't have horns or wings. Bro, I understand their surprise. Nowadays almost everyone already gained a pair of horns, and feeling at their curious looks, he noticed that there was no desire to devour his flesh, so they must not be a tribe of cannibals, and since they let him sleep, they must not intend to harm him. At the same time cut to another scene, where it shows the strongest warriors in the village, saying that they need to find a new sorcerer soon, but they don't know what to do, since all of the tribe were tested, and none of them had magical talents. The only one that was missing for take the test, it is the exile who was found 3 days ago, and as they had nothing to lose, they asked to bring the stranger. So upon entering the tent, the Prota noticed that the old man was the leader of this tribe, and as the old man looked pretty weak, he decided that if things got ugly, he would take this old man hostage. But when he looked into the old man's eyes, he felt like his soul had left his body, and in this strange dimension, a fire dragon appeared in front of him, and along with the dragon the old man also appeared, and explained that this place was inside the Prota's soul, and his motive is entertaining his language now, and that he transmitted his tribe's language directly into his soul. After opening his eyes, the elder said that he will be part of this village as the new sorcerer, so the news of the Prota being the new magician in the village spread quickly, and upon hearing this news all the villagers were happy, since they are going to be treated as outcasts. At the same time, the Yanhua girl said that from now on, she will take care of him. Thus she explained that her tribe is called Yanlong, and the strongest in the tribe is the sorcerer, and the second in the command is your father, the head of the village, but if a race has no mage, it will definitely be destroyed, followed by the hunter captain, and there are also soldiers with tattoos, and reserve soldiers, and commoners, and in the old days everyone lived in one fertile ancestral land, where they didn't have to worry about water and meat. They were a 300 people strong tribe, with 65 soldiers in a single hunter group. But half a year ago, they became the target of the Black Snake tribe, and how that many people were killed, and even their ancestral lands were taken, and they were forced to migrate to this deserted place. Because of this, your goal is to become stronger to rescue your companions who were captured and recover the ancestral land. Later, as the Prota walked through the village, he noticed that most of the people are pale and thin. They are clearly malnourished, the living environment is very poor, and the poor hygienic conditions make it easy to get contaminated with bacteria. so if an outbreak of contagious disease happened it would be an absolute disaster, and while he was desperate to imagine such a scene, he heard a robotic voice in his head, saying that the daily help system has been activated, and if he checks in daily he will receive a random help package for newbies, and more help packages will be unlocked 1 year after system activation. Of course, if he wait 1 year all of them will die. And interrupting his thoughts, Yanhua said she will take him to rest. So when he entered the hut that would be his new home, he lay down on the bed to take a nap, then out of nowhere he felt a smell of milk coming from the bed. And suddenly Yanhua jumped towards him, and said to him and stopped smelling his bed, and that's how he realized that the two of them were going to live together. Guys, this guy is one of mine. He ignored the fact that she had animal horns and ears, as she had a beautiful face and body, of course, seeing him analyzing her appearance, and saying that he agreed to live with her. Yanhua was embarrassed and said that she was not going to sleep in that hut, because that night she was going to be on patrol. And shortly after her departure, the Proto opened the system and did his first check-in, and he got an intermediate care package. And with that package he got the level 1 healing skill, and the reason he got an intermediate care package, it wasn't something forced since this system said that always gives a bonus at the user's first check-in, and as he uses his healing skill, her level increases, and when looking at his status, he realized that with his current status it would not be enough to survive in this primitive tribe. Then he regrets you of not having trained your body before dying. Guys, be careful with your physical state, because you can end up going to a sedentary survival isekai. At the same time it cuts to another scene where it shows the elder saying that even if the origin of the Prota is unknown, he must become the new sorcerer of the tribe, and the reason for the old man's haste, and that his body will only be able to survive for a few more days. And seeing the dying state of the elder, the village chief was frustrated because he was so weak. Since the sorcerer hurt himself so much to protect his tribe from the black snake race, and understanding his feelings, the elder said that he doesn't need to worry about it. Instead he should perform the ceremony of succession for the next 3 days, and he also doesn't have to worry about the boy being a spy for the black snake tribe, as they wouldn't be able to raise such a clean and smooth-skinned child. Moreover, he has been watching the soul of that boy, and there is no evil in him. His soul is as clean as a river, without a trace of dirt, and he seems to be part of a legendary tribe. So when the chief was going to make the inheritance preparations, the elder stopped him, and said that the descendants of a sorcerer often have extraordinary talent, so it would be better if his tribe had many generations of sorcerers. Simply put, the old man was saying for the Prota to have as many descendants as possible. Later, when the village master was leaving the old man's hut, he saw his daughter trying to eavesdrop on their conversations, and as she was caught in the fraga, she had no choice but to come up with a random excuse. But he didn't care about that, and told her to marry the young sorcerer and have many children. Upon hearing this shocking news, her brain turned off for a few seconds, and when it returned to normal, she said that she had already said before that she would only marry someone who can beat her. Then there's no way she can marry such a sedentary guy. Hey guys, you have to exercise, otherwise when you go to an isekai, you're going to lose a beautiful wife for being sedentary. It's clear why she hasn't married yet, and that's since she's very attractive. No one has managed to beat her in a duel, and since she is already 19, Yahua's father told her to do good with the Protas soon and have several children. Bro, I wanted to have a father-in-law like that. Since normally if a father sees some brat approaching his daughter, he runs after the kid with a machete in his hand, and as the Yanhua wanted to be an empowered woman, she said that instead of having children, she wants to become stronger to take revenge. So in the morning of the next day, it shows the Prota shivering with cold, and looking better at his new house, he saw that it had many holes, and because of this, he almost froze to death during the night. And as he closed up the holes, Yanhua appeared and began to imagine them having 3 children, and embarrassed she slapped him several times. It is clear how the Prota was sedentary just like my subscribers. These slaps almost killed him, and the only thing the poor thing wanted was straw to cover his holes in his new house. And noticing that, the Yenhua said that she will help him, and while he was going after the straws, the Prota saw two little girls sleeping in the cold without a blanket. At the same time, Yenhua explained that most people don't have house, and the fur is very valuable, so they have to hunt it themselves if they want a blanket. Then while returning to his hut, the Prota gave his straw to cover the little girls, and seeing this, the Yenhua said that since he is a sorcerer, he is much more important than them, so he cannot be frozen overnight, and the Prota said that they are all equally important. Of course, this speech made the Yenhua even more interested in him. Later, when it was almost dark, the hunting squad returned from their mission, and with that news all the villagers gathered to see the glorious return of the hunting squad, and they were happy that they didn't have to go hungry for a while, at that very moment. While the Prota saw all this, the Yenhua explained that most of the meat is distributed to the tattooed warriors, and a small portion is given to the reservists and the children, but the women and the old people can only eat occasionally. Usually they pick wild fruits to eat, and with that information, the Prota had an idea, and asked if they ever tried to do agriculture or raise animals to become a source of food. Since if they start farming, they will stabilize the food reserves in the village. Of course, as a person of a primitive era, the Yenhua didn't understand the point of taking care of animals when they don't have enough to eat, and while thinking of an easy way to explain it to after her, the leader of the hunting squad congratulated the future village chief for finally finding a husband, but embarrassed she denied this, and said that the Prota was the sorcerer's heir, and upon hearing that, the guys from the hunting squad they were happy, and gave him some of their game, and before he got the wrong idea, the Yenhua said that they are only doing that because he is the future sorcerer. Even the little boy gave his only meal to the Prota for him if the future king of the village. But the Prota only accepted the hunt from the hunter, so when it gets dark, it shows the Yenhua asking the protagonist why he did not accept the little boy's meat. Since it is an honor for the boy to offer meat to the sorcerer, but the Prota said that there is no way he can be proud of taking a child's meal, and while he was saying that, he noticed that the Yenhua was staring at his meat and her belly did not stop rumbling, but when he asked if she wanted to give it a bitten, she denied, saying she has no, as she eats the sorcerer's heir's food. Of course she pays lip service to it, because the next moment, she can't resist her gluttony and says she's only going to have a bite. But she ends up eating more than 80% of the meat. She did like that friend of yours who, when you offer him something just out of kindness, he ends up eating almost all of it alone. While he ate the rest that was left, the Prota missed a little salt to make the meat tastier, and noticing so, the Yenhua offered the salt she was saving, and said that since the day they lost their territory it has been difficult to get salt, and the little they get goes to the tattoo warriors, but even though she is a reserve, she managed to save some salt from his old territory. Upon hearing this, the Prota felt frustrated that he had forgotten that salt was very valuable in a primitive society, unlike in the land where you could buy a pack in any supermarket. So no, there was no way he could accept something so valuable like that. Because of that he returned the salt to the Yenhua, and while he was thinking of a way to lift this village out of poverty, the Yenhua said that every fortnight, the leopard deer tribe open a market, and people from nearby tribes go to them to buy many things, and one of those things is salt, and the next day they are going to open the market. It will be in 10 days, and hearing that, the Prota decided to go have a look there when it's time to learn more about this isekai. Guys, you know that dessert comes after dinner, but before he tasted dessert, his father-in-law appeared and ended his joy, saying that the sorcerer was calling him, and seeing his future son-in-law entering the hut, the head of the village said that the great sorcerer's remaining time will be handed over to the Prota, and he was not the only one who realized that this day had finally arrived. The strongest warriors in the village also realized this, and were saddened by the departure of a person who was like a father to them, and at the same time they prepared to welcome the new sorcerer to their tribe. So it cuts to another scene, where it shows the elder saying that since tomorrow will be the succession ceremony, he will tell everything the Prota needs to know. So the old man explains that the sorcerer is the one who protects the tribe, and inherits the future of the kingdom, and leads his people to glory. Only doing all that can someone be worthy of being called a sorcerer, and in this world, The power of the tattoo is the basis of a race. The totems inherited by each tribe are also different. Only the sorcerer is able to control the power of the tattoo and activate the totem mark in the blood of his tribe's warrior. Tattoo soldiers are the strongest people of a race besides the sorcerer, and each of them has great potential, because everyone has a lot of blood chi. However, no matter how good a totem warrior's talent was, it would not be able to evolve naturally. If there is no sorcerer to guide that power, so the presence of mages is very important for warriors, actually. Everyone has the power of blood chi inside their bodies, and with the help of a sorcerer even the weakest person can become a tattoo warrior. Guys, that means that our proto will be overpowered, and will do your kingdom get strong too, and if a person accumulates enough blood strength, he will be promoted through the ritual. Under normal circumstances, a reserve soldier can handle most beasts, but outside the tribe, there are much more powerful beasts out there, and only strong tattoo warriors can face the beasts. Even though they are few in number, they are the core of the tribe. How strong a kingdom is depends entirely on the number of tattoo warriors. Because of this that the status of a sorcerer is so high. But a mage's abilities are not limited only to training a warrior, but also to creating a sorcerer's domain, and finishing this long explanation. The old man handed the parchment containing all his knowledge to the Prota, and to open the parchment, the Prota saw unfamiliar words, but out of nowhere the letters started to glow, and it made his head feel dizzy. This also happens to me when I'm reading a manga and out of nowhere a big text appears full of explanation. At the same time the sorcerer said that the text of the mages is not something he can read now, but when the succession ceremony is over, he will be able to understand its content, and each domino has a magic engraved on it. As long as he uses magic power, he will be able to activate it. In short, the time has finally come for the Prota to start getting overpowered. Of course there are many types of magic, such as techniques of poison, healing spells, and blessing spells that can increase strength and speed. The elder also said that he specializes in healing magic and also some other blessings, and something the Prota must remember, and that a sorcerer never can reveal his tricks to the public. Because although a sorcerer is greatly admired, he also becomes an easy target. The old man also told the Prota to keep the scroll a secret, since that is the heritage of the tribe, and at the term just after saying that, the elder started spitting blood out of nowhere, and desperately the Prota tried to use his magic to heal the old man, but his technique was ineffective, and he couldn't heal the elder. As the sorcerer approached his death, he felt no fear, as his waiting had not been in vain. And seeing his successor trying everything to heal his body, the great sage asked the Prot not to waste his energy on him. As his body reached a level that was not, he could heal more. At the same time he said that his biggest regret in life was not being able to see the surprises that his successor will create in the future. But before he left this world, he decided to use his last seconds to finish the inheritance ceremony, thus using what strength his body still had. The elder walked among his people with majesty, and began the succession ceremony. Thus after waiting for this moment for 63 years, this day finally arrived, and even close to death, he feels proud to name the new sorcerer who will guide his tribe to the top of the world. And as the ceremony begins, the tribe's strongest warriors offer their blood as per the elder's request. At the same time all blood flew towards the sorcerer, and became a sphere of blood. And with that the totem was completed, and the sphere of blood became a golden dragon and entered the body of the young king. And to complete the ceremony, the elder proceeded to true sorcerer's heritage for the Prota, and within that sphere of light contains the history of sorcerers and the secrets of tattooing. So when the sphere entered the protagonist's head, his soul was transferred to a strange space. At the same time it shows the memory of a boy, walking through the desert with his tribe. For 2 days without eating anything, then at dusk, the boy used his tribe's artifact and asked the gods of the totem to show him the future of his race, and to make such a request, he used many divination potions and ended up breaking the taboo of his people. Because of that the most qualified heir of the sorceress would not be able to live long. But even if he could die for having done that, the boy does not regret it. Since he saw something incredible, and seeing her son in that state, the sorceress used her energy to heal him. At the same time, she gave advice to her little boy, saying that this vision is his secret, but he cannot be at the mercy of the prediction. Instead, he must bury that vision within his heart, and remember it until the day of prediction comes. And even though she doesn't know what the future of her tribe is, she believes that one day her race will no longer need to starve in cold. But until that day comes, they will have to be strong to pass all approval. And as his son is her heir, he will have to be even stronger to guide his people. And hearing that, the boy decided to a great leader until the arrival of the legendary king who will lift your tribe out of poverty. So a few years later it shows the unhappy extras with the boy who became the new sorcerer, since he was arrogant, and had a very weak body to become the strongest tattoo warrior of his tribe. But it didn't take long for him to win the admiration of its people. Several years later, in a certain attack by a pack of monsters, he used all his power to seriously injure the beasts and save his people. But on that fateful day, his precious son ended up dying while fighting the beasts. And it was also on that day that the sorcerer began to wonder if his vision of the great king was right, since even after so many years, the savior of his race had not yet arrived. But even so, he continued to believe until he reached old age, and taking advantage of that he was no longer in his prime. The Black Snake race attacked his village, but proving that he deserved the title of strongest sorcerer of his tribe's entire generation, the elder managed to save his people and retreated to new territory. And even no longer being in his prime, the reason he remained standing until now was that he could not fall, since the great king had not yet appeared. So a while later, the moment he saw the Proto, the sorcerer realized that their king finally had arrived, and all his waiting was worth it. And just seeing this memory, the soul of the protagonist returned to reality, and he apologized for making the old man wait for so long. But the old man did not blame him, and handed over the future of his tribe in the hand of the person who will lead his people out of poverty. And having finished carrying out his life's mission, the elder finally managed to rest, and went to where his mother, his son and his wife were, and with death from a great leader came the birth of the legendary king who will lead his kingdom to the top of the world. Then it shows the protagonist waking up in his tent, shortly after passing out, for having run out of energy when he finished receiving the inheritance from the old man, and feeling this great power running through his body. The Proto explained that the totem is a kind of script of the sorcerers, that evolves along with the user, and the inheritance ceremony is the main secret of a sorcerer. And after he received his inheritance, his vision improved a lot. Now he can see things more clearly. Different from before, he saw things kinda blurry, and as a bonus his body also seems to have gained inexhaustible strength. Bro, so that means that Spider-Man also received the spider's inheritance, since he also felt all these things. Then when opening the property's window, he saw that his stamina, strength and speed had doubled, and his spirit had also increased tenfold. And as a bonus his magic power had also increased a bit. And because of all these changes, he began to feel just like Spider-Man after being bitten. Of course, for any sedentary person who spends the whole day sitting in front of the PC, and his only exercise is to use his hand to massage the doll, a small increase in resistance for him is something great. The Proto also explains that according to the system, the value of the magic power and the spirit is the same. Simplifying, the magic energia is the evolution of the spiritual power. Then when the Proto went to do the daily check-in, the system detected that the user had some unclaimed support packs, and seeing this message, he claimed all the bonus packs, and with that, he received a fruit knife and also a linen textile craft. And while being disappointed, he realized that the random help pack actually gives you random stuff. That way he wouldn't even be surprised if one day he gets toilet paper. Bro, I don't know why he's complaining. In a primitive world, toilet paper is rarer than gold for me. Even flax textile craft seems to be quite useful, as most people of the primitive tribe use animal skins. Of course the Proto realized this too, and decided to make sackcloth in the future. And while he was thinking about it, his father-in-law appeared, and said that he needs to pack his bags, since now he will live in the main tent. And seeing his new leader getting uncomfortable robbing the old leader's house, the father-in-law said that from now on, he is the sorcerer of his tribe, so it is natural for him to live in the main tent, because that way it will be easier for his people to receive guidance from him. And hearing this, the Prota ended up agreeing to live there, and asked what they did with the body of the elder. And before the father-in-law answered, the lion warrior appeared, and said that they followed the old man's advice, and cremated his corpse, and that relic was the only thing left after the cremation. There is a legend that says that a person of infinite merits in life will have relics after his cremation. Bro, the old man is so badass that even the gods recognized him, and accepting this relic, the king of the primitive tribe decided to build a temple after recovering his people's ancestral land, and that is his first big goal after becoming the tribe's sorcerer. So when sitting on his throne, which is currently just a rug on the floor, the Prota asked his servants what was the situation of his people, and the lion warrior replied that there is not much meat left, there is just enough to share with the tattoo warriors, but there is not enough to supply the consumption of the 6 reserve soldiers. Bro, I still cannot understand the status classification of the warriors of this tribe. Like this is like a football team where there are the main players and also the reservations. Or is it something totally different? If you manage to understand, leave a comment explaining it better. At the same time, the father-in-law explains that originally there were 26 reserve warriors, but many of them were taken by the tattoo warriors of the Black Snake tribe during the migration, and currently there is a high chance that they are dead or have become slaves. And as the king needed to understand the Black Snake threat more clearly, he asked if the gecko race is far from them. And the father-in-law said that the Black Snake race will not come to their territory for now, since this land is a bit barren, and they don't like it, and although the fact that there aren't many beasts in the hunting grounds makes the citizens feel safe, it makes hunting very difficult, as it takes a day to travel and find prey, and it takes at least 3 days to get enough meat, so this condition is both good and bad, as this tribe's bad location makes it difficult to get food. But it also means that they won't get attacked by monsters. So they will be able to develop their territories more calmly. Of course, for the Prota it is not a good idea to depend only on hunting to survive. Because of that he decided to use good resources as a bargaining chip in the bazaar instead of meat. Guys, it's my impression, or it's been 2 chapters since the waifu of this work doesn't appear. I hope she appears in the next chapter, otherwise I'll have to pay a visit to the author's house. And while he was thinking about what to use as a bargaining chip, the Prota remembered the flax he received, and asked his servants if flax was something rare, and the lion replied that it is very rare. Only large tribes can make it. Because of that, their desire since childhood was to keep some linen clothes and leave it to the younger generation. The father-in-law also said that they want to make clothes for everyone in the tribe. But after the migration, they did not get much meat to use as a bargaining chip, and every time the flax is sold quickly in the market of the spotted deer, and to buy the roll of that thread that goes from where the king is sitting to the door, they needed to give 300 pounds of meat in exchange. On hearing this, the Prota realized that this was a terrible monopoly for whoever sells the meat. Because of that, he set a small goal, which was to use flax to make everyone in the tribe have as much meat to eat as much as they can. After getting a method to create flax, the Prota created a plan with his father-in-law and General Leal to get meat for everyone. Then he shows a furry complaining because he is looking for grass, instead of looking for prey. Bro, different from this extra, here where I live the guys love a green leaf. And seeing his subordinate doing soft work, General Leal smacked him, and said that what they are doing is related to the future of their tribe. And when he finished saying that, he had a flashback where he showed the sorcerer saying who knew the technique to create flax. But he has to be careful that no outsider finds out, otherwise his tribe would become the target of several different races. And because of that, the sorcerer gave the mission to General Leal to look for a certain plant when he went hunting, and this plant was the material needed to make the linen fabric, so depending on his effort, his tribe will have enough food for everyone. And since the sorcerer entrusted this very important task to him, General Leal decided to give his best, At the same time, it shows the Proto worried about the fact that he only had enough dried meat for 15 days. And to make matters worse, there were only 8 days left for the market of the leopard deer tribe, and they had nothing to exchange for the meat, and to travel to the leopard deer tribe would take 3 days, so there are only 5 days left to prepare the ingredients, and since the time was very short, there is a high chance that your father-in-law and General Lion will not be able to find the plant. But even if they found it, the Proto didn't know whether to personally teach everyone how to make flax, since the method of making flax is secret. So he can't hand over everything so easily, but if he had a suitable assistant, he could teach her a complete set of steps, and then have her teach the others in stages. But if the material is not found, he will have to think of a backup plan, and to make matters worse, there are still many problems in this tribe, like clean water, salt, and sanitation are big issues, and just thinking about it is making him stressed, since he was just an ordinary novel writer who couldn't even take care of himself, let alone manage a village with lots of people. And then while he was depressed about his future, the waifu of the work finally appeared after 2 chapters, and was worried about him, since he was acting crazy while pulling his hair. Bro, now you see and even launched the calf bald cut anymore that people think you're feeling sick, and to see if he had a fever, the Yenhua touched her forehead to his. But unlike what she thought, his temperature was normal, and generally disappointing. The Proto got all shy and turned away from her like a virgin. At the same time, the girl said that as her father and the others are all out doing something, she was outside the tent keeping and protecting his safety. But hearing the Proto saying that she didn't, he was reliable, she got irritated and gave him a lion kill, and said that she is the strongest among the reserve soldiers. And in that situation the soldier felt very good because he was so close to her. But at the same time he felt it too, who could die any time, so not wanting to waste life so young again without being able to enjoy the world, he apologized to her, and after he was able to breathe again, he asked if all sorcerers dealt with so many trivial things, and the Yenhua said no, already that all sorcerers had assistants. But since the previous sorcerer's assistants died while fighting the Black Snake tribe, there was not one of them left to help the new sorcerer. And since the Proto didn't want to continue doing these miscellaneous jobs alone, he asked if the Yenhua had someone to recommend him as his assistant, and it would be good if that someone was an intelligent and hard-working person, who had practical thoughts and ideas. And hearing that, the Yenhua smiled and said that this person is in front of him. Yeah, of course she was referring to herself. But the Proto destroyed all her confidence, telling her to stop playing around, as she is nowhere near those 3 conditions. Yes, and irritated she told him to choose a Miko instead of an assistant, since a Miko was a woman who took care of the sorcerers day to day, doing the housework and giving instructions and various other things, and for this world the Miko was like the sorcerer's wife. But of course, the Yenhua didn't say that part to the Proto, so when asked who would be suitable for that position, the Yenhua said with a dejected expression that she has one person in mind. Like this shows another flashback, where her father said that the new sorcerer would need a Miko sooner or later, and as he is close to her, she would be perfect for that position. But seeing his daughter indecisive, he asked if there was anything she hated on the new sorcerer, since this was a very valuable opportunity, so she should get it, and the Yenhua replied that she doesn't hate the Proto, and also becoming a Miko is the dream of every girl in the tribe. But there's no way her revenge, if she became one Miko, so no matter what happens, she will remain a tattoo warrior, and will kill the bastards of the Black Snake tribe. And while remembering that, she ended up returning to reality with the Proto calling her name, and took the new sorcerer to see his friend. And getting there, the Proto saw 3 ladies working, and as the Yenhua had said that her friend had pink hair with a fox ear and tail, he was able to easily differentiate who his future Miko would be. So for joy of many, and to the sadness of subscribers who don't like harem, another girl with animal ears appeared to enter the harem of the king of the primitive tribe. In the previous part, the protagonist needed an assistant. Yenhua indicated his friend, so he went to meet the girl who would be his future Miko, and arriving there, the Proto saw 3 ladies working, and as Yenhua had said that her friend she had pink hair with a fox ear and tail, he could easily tell who she was, but even though she was very pretty. The Prota told Yanhua that her friend didn't seem to be a very healthy girl, she seemed to be very sedentary, since even the tribal blood marks on her face were starting to disappear. Bro, it's funny to see a sedentary talking to another, and listening to this the waifu of the work explains that her friend has a very weak body, but she is very diligent and kind, and sometimes she is very stubborn, and she's General Liao's niece. Bro, I'm glad she wasn't born looking like her uncle. Waifu also explained that when the fox girl was a child her father and mother ended up dying, and her aunt started taking care of her since that day, but recently, her aunt got pregnant, and the fox girl moved into this hut, and the reason was that she didn't want to bring trouble to her aunt, since now that she was pregnant, she would need more food, so for her aunt to be able to eat properly. Fox Mine moved out of her uncle's house, bro, I hope that the child is not born similar to the father. And finishing explaining this, Yanhua said that she cannot understand this thought of her friend, since if she continued with her uncles she would still be able to eat well, but now she will only be able to eat roots, and unlike Yanhua, the Prota understood why the fox girl did this, since if the difference between giving and receiving is too big, she will feel guilty, and why he understands that, and why when he was child, he went through the same situation, and while as he thought about it, he heard the primitive tribe mind saying that it would be better for the fox girl to stay in the lion general's house, because she will only suffer by staying in that hut. Even the lady agreed with the mine, and said that with the beauty of the fox girl, and with the fact that her parents have been the pillars of the tribe in the past, she would be perfect to become the young sorcerer's Miko. Upon hearing this, the fox girl blushed, and said all shy that she doesn't deserve to be a Miko, since there's no way the honorable sorcerer likes her. Of course they already knew what the fox girl's dream was. Because of that they asked whether or not she wants to become a Miko. Why is there a saying among women from the primitive tribe, which was that if you let the guy you like get away, you'll regret it for the rest of your life? And hearing this, she replied in an even more shy way, that she wants to become a Miko. But that it is impossible for her as Yanhua is the most suitable to become the young sorcerer's partner, because that was also Yanhua's biggest dream since she was a child, so even having the same wish it's impossible for her to steal her friend's dream. And hearing this, Yanhua got angry and entered the hut yelling at her not to keep telling others' childhood dreams so casually, and being surprised by her friend appearing out of nowhere, the fox girl defended herself saying that this was not a secret, because Yanhua herself used to say this to everyone in the tribe. At the same time the Prota entered the hut too, and said he has something to ask the fox mine, and seeing her young sorcerer, she realized that he had heard everything she had said. Because of that she felt really bad for having acted in such an arrogant way, saying that she wanted to become a Miko. Of course the Prota didn't care about that. The only thing he cared about was if his new assistant had some basic knowledge. So when he asked if she could write, for some reason the primitive tribe mind was amazed, thinking that her young sorcerer could read, but for the fox girl that question only made her even sadder, since she couldn't write, and noticing the strange climate, he asked Yanhua if he said something wrong, and she replied that only the great tribes have their own words, and their tribe doesn't, because of that none of them know how to write. Upon hearing this, the Prota decided leave that part aside, as he still doesn't understand common sense nor the level of knowledge of this world, so there's no way for him to ask these kind of questions, so he changed his question and asked if the fox girl is ready to become her Miko, and she replied that Yanhua would be a better option than her. But Yanhua said that she wants to take revenge against the Black Snake tribe, and to accomplish her goals she has to become a tattoo warrior, so after think for a while, she realized that the fox girl would be better suited to become a Miko, and also that was her dream since she was little. And interrupting them, the Prota said that the fox girl doesn't need to care what other people do. She must decide for herself whether or not she wants to become his assistant, and she replied all shyly that it's not that she doesn't want to, it's just that she's very shy and stupid, and always makes mistakes, and before she's finished to say that she's worried if it's going to hinder him more than help, the Prota got up and said he's not going to force her, it's her choice, and when he finished saying that, he left. And the Yenhua ran after him, and asked why he suddenly left. He needed to have more patience with his friend, since she is a very shy and weak person, so there was no reason for him to act in such a cruel way. Now she will always hate herself and feel that she is a useless one. Of course the Prota said he doesn't want that to happen, but opposed them opportunities should be taken advantage of by the person himself and not by others, if she really wants to become a Miko. She should fight her weakness and take this opportunity. This is not about him, it's about her. She who should decide her own path. And while saying that, they saw a girl asking them to wait. But unlike what Yenhua expected, this mine was not his childhood friend, but the mine of the primitive tribe who came to deliver something to the sorcerer as a way of thanks. And even not knowing what she was thanking, the Prota accepted, and was disappointed that the fox girl had given up. So when they were about to leave, the primitive tribe mine asked him to wait a moment, for that the fox girl came with her, but she is very sedentary, so her running is like a turtle. Because of that the Prota had to wait for her for a few minutes, so when she finally managed to catch up with them, she was almost dying of tiredness, just like any sedentary person who spends the whole day sitting in front of the PC. But even though she couldn't breathe properly, she said she wants to become a Miko. And because of the flash of willpower in her eyes, the Prota accepted her as his assistant, and upon achieving his big dream, the fox girl cried like a little child, and without understanding the reason for her tears, Yenhua tried to comfort her, and told her to be happy, as she managed to become a Miko. And different from what Yenhua was thinking, the fox girl said that she is crying because she is very happy. She never thought that she would be able to fulfill her dream. Because of that, today is being the happiest day of her life. Upon hearing this, Yenhua asked if she was T. It was fine for the sorcerer to do such a simple test to accept his future Miko, and the Prota replied that it would be a waste of time to do several complex tests to accept an assistant, and for him, despite them saying she is a Miko, he thinks she is more suitable as an assistant. And as he thought about it, he saw a beautiful vision in front of him, where Yenhua wipes her childhood friend's tears, while saying that she looks like a kitten when she's crying, and at this beautiful vision, he was excited about his future, as although these two are problematic, he will have two beauties on his side all the time. Bro, if he doesn't have attitude, and act like the Protas virgins of anime, he will lose both. Then when telling the fox girl to wash her face so they can start working, the pink one was surprised by her request, since they are short of water, so there's no way she can waste water just to wash her face. When she hears this, the Prota finally realized the reality of a primitive world, and walked away from them, like a debtor running away from his credit card, and asked them how often people of this tribe shower. Of course, like any girl, Yenhua was annoyed with that question, and said that she always bathes every year in the rainy season, and hearing this, he realized that since he arrived in this isekai, he was living with a creature that only bathes once a year, and the only explanation he came to for them not to smell their own stench, and that their noses adapted to his odors. Bro, so far Yenhua has already grabbed the Prota several times, and at most he said she smelled milk. So for one person don't stink having gone so long without showering, she must be like the Koreans who won the genetic lottery. And they don't use deodorant because they don't have the CC gene. And because of the Prota's question, the fox girl got worried, and asked if taking a bath every day is something important to become a Miko. And even though that wasn't important for the primitive people, for the Prota it was very important, because hence he decided to implement a sanitation system to have enough water sources for everyone to bathe. So considering future developments, he must find a way to divert water for irrigation. Because of that he asked Yenhua where they usually collect water, and she said that there is a small lake in the forest to the southwest, but there is a group of very powerful beasts close by, and only tattoo warriors can get close to it, and the water in the tribe is transported and supplied by tattoo warriors, just enough to quench their thirst. Hearing this, the Prota asked them to show them where the small lake was, since water is the source of life. They need to prioritize and resolve there was the problem of lack of water, but instead of showing him the way, the Yenhua grabbed him by the neck, and said that a sorcerer can never leave the tribe, since it's too dangerous out there, so he can't just leave. It is clear to the Prota that he would be more likely to die by her hands. At the same time, the fox girl explained that there are some tattoo warriors exiled by other tribes, who choose small tribes to kidnap the sorcerers and force the mages to perform the ritual of inheritance. There was even a sorcerer who was kidnapped, and when he was found, he was on his last breath, and after a few minutes he ended up kicking his heels. Because of that, a rule was created that a sorcerer cannot leave the tribe unless it's necessary, and that was one of the reasons the elder said that being a sorcerer is a high-risk job. Yanhua also explains that within the tribe it's completely safe, because half of Tat's soldiers they have an eye around the tribe. That's why ordinary exiled soldiers can't get close easily. In short, they have 11 tattoo warriors, and 6 went hunting and 5 stayed to protect the tribe, but with so little manpower, this way of taking water is a waste of energy, and of manpower. Because of that he has to find a better way to get water, food and also protect the village. So how can he not waste time doing nothing? He said that he needs to find the small lake to form a plan, but if they are afraid to let him go because it is too dangerous, they can go along with the father-in-law. But the Yanhua said that his father was still outside the tribe, and it would be very dangerous to go look for him, and before he left, he told her not to let the sorcerer leave the tribe. But losing patience with them, the Prota gave his first order to them, and ordered them to take him to see the little one lake. Then it shows the 3 of them in a forest in the middle of the night, and unlike the fox girl who was full of fear, Yanhua said that even if it means sacrificing her life, she will definitely protect him. And how the fox girl didn't want to be left behind, she said that if a beast appears, and for them to let it become their meal first, and take this opportunity to escape, and trying to alleviate some of this tense atmosphere. Yanhua said that their current location is still not far from the tribe, and the nearest beast hunting party has already cleared this area. However, there may still be some unforeseen, and as she was saying that, a mysterious person was up in a tree looking at them, and realizing that if things continued like this, they will end up getting lost and entering a dangerous area. The Prota asked if Yanhua knows the exact location of the father-in-law, and she replied that they must be close to where her father was camping since they don't are just patrolling. Her father and the others take time to collect water as well as food, and while she was explaining this, the fox girl was scared to death to get in the back, and to make her even more terrified, a guy showed up in front of him. Out of nowhere a mysterious shadow flew from behind the Prota towards the guy, and seeing that, the Prota thought he was surrounded by exiled soldiers. At the same time the mysterious shadow's claw passed through Yanhua, and broke the dagger of the extra who tried to counterattack, and grabbed his neck, and seeing better the appearance of the mysterious shadow, the Yanhua recognized her, and said that this mine and her aunt Hong, the Black Claw, and seeing that, the Prota was surprised by the strength and speed of a tattoo warrior, and if her target was him, he would have met his great-grandmother. At the same time the mine recognized that the extra was part of her tribe. Because of that she pulled her claw of his neck, and when he Prota asked why he was returning to the tribe alone, the helper said that Sister Mai is injured and if she doesn't receive treatment she will die. Because of that he was going back to the village to ask the Prota for the dominoes to heal her. On hearing this, the sorcerer asked the extra to take him to Sister Mai, and thus ends the 11th chapter. So it cuts to another scene where it shows the father-in-law trying to keep his companion awake, telling him to hold on and not worry, as the Black Claw went to the tribe to get some healing dominoes. But as Mai perfectly understood the gravity of his wound, he said he won't be able to hold out much longer, so they should leave him behind, as the scent of his blood will attract the beasts, so if they stay longer by his side, they will surrounded by a pack of hungry beasts in the middle of the night, and realizing he didn't have much time, he asked his captain to leave a portion of his dried meat to his son, as sooner or later he will wake up and become a tattoo warrior. Bro, I think it's amazing that anime characters can quote a giant will when they're dying. At the same time, the father-in-law tried to lighten the mood and make his partner more confident, making a joke, saying that he will be able to get out of this, since if he can speak this giant will, he still has a lot of energy left. So he must think of other things. he must just hold on a little longer, and as he said that, he felt some presences approaching him, and thinking it was some beast. One of the tattoo warriors threw his spear in the place where the noise was coming from. And to the misfortune of the Black Claw, he was hit again, but this time it was grazed, and without losing its speed the spear continued its trajectory, but was stopped by Aunt Shahong, and seeing her together with the sorcerer, the father-in-law was surprised, as he didn't expect to see his young master in such a place. So annoyed he scolded his subordinate, as he had asked the Black Claw to fetch the healing domino, and not bring the sorcerer to such a dangerous place. Bro, like every recruit, this rookie only gets along badly. Of course the father-in-law also reprimanded his daughter and also the fox girl for letting the young sorcerer leave the tribe. But unlike his father-in-law, who completely forgot that his companion was dying, the Proto went to the Mai, and told the father-in-law that he didn't, it was their fault, he who insisted on leaving, and he doesn't regret his decision, as if he didn't, one of his warriors would die. And seeing his wound, the Proto explained that the wound was very deep, and it wasn't a wound that an earth person could bear, but as the Mai was a warrior, he had a physique far beyond an earthling's imagination, so if he uses the healing skill he acquired from coming to this Insakai, it has great chance of Mai to survive. And realizing that the young sorcerer would use his healing ability, the father-in-law sent his subordinates to guard the perimeter, and seeing the Proto using healing magic, Yanhua was surprised, as to learn to use some magic it takes at least a month. But the Proto managed to learn in a short time. Not only that, he can use magic without mentioning an incantation, and this was their first time seeing such a thing. Even the father-in-law was surprised and said that the elder had said that the new sorcerer's talent was surreal. At the same time, the Proto realized that his healing was effective, but the recovery rate was very limited. And the reason for this was that his skill was level 1, so with no other option, he had to use his magic several times to completely heal the wound, and seeing his brand new belly, the Mai Meng was surprised, but as he had lost a lot of blood, the father-in-law sent one of his subordinates to take him back to the tribe, since his body was too weak to be able to fight a beast, and seeing the Mai saying that they can still fight, the father-in-law lost his patience, and said that even though the Mai has wings since he was a child, he feels that the Mai is not from the clan's eagles, but rather from the parrot clan, as he doesn't shut up even when he's dying. So making things clearer, the father-in-law said that if he stays with them, they won't be able to protect the sorcerer. Of course after that he had no choice but to turn to the primitive tribe. Then it shows the Proto exhausted from having used a lot of energy to heal his subordinate, and if he had used all his energy, he would have fainted. But if it was me, I wouldn't mind fainting if I had 2 beautiful waifus taking care of me. At the same time he opened the system properties panel, and in it showed that he had the fire dragon tattoo. He also saw that his healing ability had increased by 9 points. But as his healing was very slow, he had to find a way to increase it. The level of his healing ability quickly, otherwise if more people are seriously injured, he won't be able to save their lives. And as he had used a lot of mental strength, the system told him to get enough rest to recover. So while resting, the Proto asked his father-in-law how Mai got such a serious wound, and he replied that Mai was a bit careless during the patrol, and was attacked by several cursed forest wolves. And among mixed-breed animals, the cursed forest wolf belongs to the weakest faction, but even then they can shoot bone darts that are hard to avoid, and that makes them dangerous creatures. And hearing this, Yanhua scolded the Proto, saying that he was not supposed to leave the tribe, since even Uncle Mai, who is an experienced tattoo warrior, was seriously injured. Of course the Proto knew that. But even knowing this risk, he decided to leave the tribe, since he had to get more knowledge of this world, to make the primitive tribe prosper, and in that he discovered that there are not only wild animals in the forest, but also there were great beasts, which only strong warriors could face. Each animal is different, categorized from weak to strong. There are 3 types: mixed-race beasts, purebred beast, and inherited race beast. Tattoo warrior strength also has 3 levels corresponding to beasts. In the current tribe, only the father-in-law, the Aunt Xiaohong, the lion general, the Mai, and the Qing Yan are in the first tier, after reaching the rookie-level tattoo warrior peak, they will rise to the intermediate level, and with their current levels, it would be difficult for them to cope with the forest wolves if they were attacked suddenly, and according to his observations, the principle of his healing ability is similar to that of Chinese medicine physiotherapy. In short, he was only able to cure the Mai Meng because his physique was very strong, but unlike him, the elder already had his physique without energy, so his healing ability was not enough. In addition, he could see the battle between a novice tattoo warrior at his maximum level against an ordinary warrior, and in his vision, the fact that Aunt Hog has completely dominated her opponent is due to the fact that she destroyed his weapon early on. Then the father-in-law told Sha Hong and Black Claw to prepare to escort the sorcerer back to the tribe. But the Prota said he won't come back yet, they have to take him to the water source first, since that was the reason why he left the tribe. But the father-in-law denied it, and said that it is very dangerous there are many more beasts than the warriors they have, so there is no way to protect him. But the Prota could not go back now, since if he doesn't get the information about the water source, he won't be able to create a plan to end the water shortage, and with that there will be no future for his tribe, so his own safety is not important, and however dangerous whatever, he has to risk his life, not to let the tribe's heritage be destroyed in his hands. And while saying that he had a flashback, where he showed the old man very young, telling the little boy not to worry, since he is the sorcerer of the tribe, so he won't leave Ag Aratinho as he starved, and ending this flashback, the Prota told the father-in-law not to worry, if there is something dangerous, he will retreat, and seeing that he would not give up on his goal, the father-in-law decided to take him there. But before leaving, he told his subordinates to protect the young sorcerer with their lives. Then while walking, the Prota said that even saying that, he cannot deny that this mountain is scary. And even though his attribute is twice that of ordinary people on earth, he is already very tired after walking for a short time, since in this primitive world he is still a sedentary, and unlike him the people around him are not even sweating, and to make it worse, walking in this scary forest was making him remember several horror movies. Luckily there were fireflies that helped pave the way, otherwise he would have already run away. But as he must maintain his dignity as a man, he can't do that. Since even the fox girl, who she's pretty scared she's fine, she even picked some fruit for him in this scary forest. And while he was thinking about it, the father-in-law said that they reached their goal, and that's how chapter 12 ends. But having arrived at his objective, he decided to rest a little, to approach the lake when it became clearer, since if they tried to approach now, they could be surrounded by a pack of wild animals, so at dawn, they could see more clearly the forest wolves drinking water in the lake. And as the Mai Meng had been injured by the thorns of these beasts, the Prota decided to formulate a plan before approaching the water source, and in this the father-in-law said that there is a way to deal with them. However, the most difficult thing will be dealing with the rock crocodiles that are in the lake. They are the absolute masters of this small lake, and their number is more than a dozen, and each of them is also a purebred animal. And even if your tribe's tattoo artists move, they'll barely be able to hunt two of them. Because of this, your tribe tends to fetch water when the crocodiles go ashore for a nap. Usually 4 trips at a time to fetch water is enough. Upon hearing this, the Prota realized that the reason they were able to use such a method is thanks to the tattoo warriors. Because if Earthlings had used this method, they would have been extinct a long time ago, since this was a very dangerous method. Inefficient, simplifying the primitive people are very dumb, because there was a much simpler method, and that was the excavation. So as the primitive people were all illiterate, the Prota had to explain in a simple way about his excavation plan. Summarizing his explanation, the lakes are actually a natural pool, and most of the water sources of the lakes come from rain. So if the water accumulates during the rainy season, there will be a trace of water evaporates going to the lagoon. But since there is no steam in front of you, that means that this lake is formed by surface runoff or groundwater. So as long as they can make a channel in the lowlands near the square, they can channel the water from that source for his tribe, and so they will no longer need to worry about the lack of water. And even though they didn't understand his explanation, the two waifus realized that this method was very good. The biggest problem would be digging the ditches, but unlike him, the Black Fang is confident in digging holes, and seeing his confidence, the Prota asked him if he was alright after being attacked twice by his own allies, and he replied that although he feels a little dizzy, he is confident in carrying out his task. Mission. At the same time, the Prota asked the father-in-law why everyone attacks immediately after hearing a noise, and the father-in-law replied that when they enter the hunting ground, they are no different from wild animals, especially during the night. If the approaching beast is a monster with a more sensitive sense of hearing, its instinct will make it attack first to increase its chances of victory. Moreover, the manpower of the tribe is not what it used to be, now the number is much smaller, so they cannot be careless. And realizing their arrogance in leaving the village with only the two waifus, the Prota apologized, and while the father-in-law gave this long explanation, the Black Fang was showing off his skills like a dog. Of course the Prota stopped this energetic subordinate of his, since he still hadn't said the place where they should start digging. Then while the Black Claw watched the perimeter with the father-in-law, the Yanhua was preparing to dig, and in this, the Prota managed to have a beautiful vision, when admiring the tail of a trained soldier. But to disturb his happiness, the fox girl appeared, and said that the ground dug by the Black Fang is getting more humid, and listening to this, the Prota realized what they were approaching the source of water. But as things were going too easy, the king felt that something important was missing, but before he managed to find out what it was, one of his subordinates said that the father-in-law was calling him, and arriving there, he saw a bear fighting the pack of wolves, and while he couldn't understand why they were fighting each other, his father-in-law explained that this kind of thing was very common. Since there are wild beasts that want to occupy this water source for exclusive use, and as the other beasts refuse to let this happen, they end up fighting. But the rock crocodiles do not participate at first, they wait for the loser to be seriously injured to pounce. Upon hearing this, the Prota understood what reason the crocodiles didn't attack the wolves when they were drinking water earlier. And he also realized that he had overlooked something very important, and that was that if they simply dig a ditch, it will be occupied by other wild beasts. At this time, the water brought to the tribe will not only contain their saliva, but may also contain feces. Because of this, he decided to stop digging ditches for the time being, as if things continued like this, it would only benefit the beasts. Then changing his plan, he asked where the bamboo forest was closest to the lake, and answering his question, the Yanhua said that there is no bamboo in this forest of death, but there are 3 plants very similar to the bamboos he described, and when asked what he would use these objects for, the Prota replied that bamboos will be used to make a water pipe in a primitive society, and receiving the order of their king, the primitive people began to cut down some trees. But these trees were different from normal, since they were hollow inside, and seeing the shape of the inside of these trees, the Prota was confident in succeeding in his plan, since the trunk of the tree was practically a natural pipe, perfect for running water. And while explaining for the 1000th time how he would use the trunks of these trees to his father-in-law, the fox girl interrupted his explanation, and said that the Black Fang found a source of water, and seeing the hole that his subordinate dug, the Prota realized that the Black Fang wasn't lying when he said he was good at digging. Of course, even though he said he was good at it, he never imagined that he would dig up water, and proving that he was a person from the primitive world. The Yanhua said that if there is water when they dig, so if they dug a hole in the tribe, they would have water forever. But unlike her stupidity, the fox girl was smarter, and realized that something like that was impossible, and in that the Prota had to give one more explanation about the fact that they were able to dig a water well, was due to the nearby lake. Bro, this part is making me feel like I'm reading Dr. Stone again. And continuing his long explanation, the Prota said that if this reservoir that they dug up looked like this, over time it would leak out. However, if they buried the log, and connected many logs to each other in the direction of the primitive tribe, the water would flow from the center of the log to their village. And hearing that, they finally understood what he was trying to explain, and they praised him for the genius plan. And as the fox girl was the most intelligent of the primitive people, she asked why the water was accumulating in the dug hole. instead of penetrating the ground, and the Proto used the knowledge he learned to write novels to explain to her. But even after his explanation, they didn't understand anything, and seeing that he gave up explaining more things to them, since if it continued like this he would go crazy. Bro me, I'm also almost going crazy remembering my tiring times at school. Then the Proto sent the Yenhua, the fox girl, and the black Fang to find some branches and weeds to hide the water reservoir from wild beasts. So after saying the mission of each of them, he returned to the primitive tribe with his father-in-law, and acting like a king, he promised that in the coming days, he will completely solve the problem of lack of water, and with his kingly charisma, he convinced everyone in the tribe to help connect the pipe from the well to the village, and how the tattoo warriors would help him in this plan. The Proto placed the reserve soldiers as temporary guards of the tribe, and placed the Mai Mang as chief, and to Xiaohong he gave the mission to lead a team to protect the main road between the tribe and the lake. Not only that, the Proto gave each one a different mission, like cutting the trees, and also discovering the best route to connect the trunks to the village, so that the water goes down smoothly. Otherwise the pressure of the water will not be enough and the water cannot flow into the village. The Proto even explained the best way to connect one log to the other, and that was to cut the wood into a convex shape, and the other end into a concave shape, so that the two being able to be united with each other. Of course, because of this knowledge, the primitive people started to respect him even more. So 2 days later, the king of the tribe took his first step towards the development of the strongest kingdom, as he made his people finally have a water reservoir in the middle of the tribe, and thanks to their new king, the primitive people are extremely happy not having to worry about water anymore. And as he hears them applauding their great achievement, the Proto explains that originally, he thought it would take a week at most, but to his surprise it was completed in less than 2 days. And this is due to the superhuman physical strength of beings in this primitive world. At the same time, he wrote a new rule for the people of the village, and that rule was that they must drink a lot of hot water. Since boiling water eliminates bacteria, viruses and parasites, and as Proto comes from China, it is natural for him to give such an order, since the Chinese believe that hot water is good for health in general, and helps with digestion. That's why they drink hot water between meals, and also in the morning to detoxify. Then when everyone in the tribe received the sorcerer's order, where they should boil the water before drinking it, they didn't understand what was the reason for that order. Because of that they started to complain about having to do something so laborious just to drink some water. So even though the fox girl explained that there are small invisible insects in the water, and for that reason the water must be boiled first to eliminate the bacteria, they didn't take her seriously, and kept complaining, since it was impossible to primitive people understood what bacteria was. And to make matters even worse, the father-in-law said that even if there are insects, that's no big deal, because when the tribe has a low food supply, they catch insects to eat, and even after drinking the unboiled water for many years, they did not notice any problems. And hearing this, the fox girl said that people who had diarrhea suddenly and fever during the last week were all caused by to drink natural water, and naturally the primitive people didn't believe that either, since for them it didn't make sense for natural water to kill people. And seeing that they didn't want to hear her arguments, the fox girl realized that if she continued like this, she would be a bad Miko, since she wasn't able to convey her king's orders correctly. So since she wanted to help the sorcerer, she didn't give up. Instead she raised her voice, and after telling them to shut up, she said that the sorcerer had said that there was a high chance that people would not understand his order, but what they should know, and that he only wants the best for them. This order of his will improve their health, and make their village to prosper. The fox girl also said that whoever disobeys the sorcerer's orders should not blame him in the future, and to her surprise, the primitive people accepted the sorcerer's order. And they started to agree with everything she said about the diarrhea. Blamed herself on the natural water, and in that she was shocked to see them accepting everything so easily, just because she had raised her voice. Bro, this is the tactic that people in my neighborhood use in an argument, hear who wins in the argument, and who speaks louder. Later on, hearing the news that everything had gone well, the Proto decided to make the practice of drinking hot water become popular in this primitive tribe. but of course he had told the fox girl to explain to the primitive people that boiled water must be cooled before drinking, otherwise the way they would all drink in a hurry and it would burn the tongue. At the same time, the Proto explains that the father-in-law said that the population of this tribe was at least 10,000 people, but now his tribe has less than 100 people, and because of the lack of manpower, along with the fact that this village is located in a bad area, it would be difficult for him to increase the current population, so at the very least he should minimize the death rate. Drinking boiled water is the first step. After that, he needs to secure food and improve hygiene conditions, by the way. He also needs to strengthen his healing ability, since in cases of serious injuries, his current ability can't do anything, and as he explained this, he became curious what the fox girl was doing, and not holding back his curiosity, he asked her. And the fox mind replied that she was putting the hay for them to sleep, since one of the duties of a Miko is always stay by the sorcerer's side. But if the Prot hates the fact that they sleep on the same hay, she can sleep farther away from him. Of course the Prot didn't hate this situation, but the problem was that he was afraid of not taking it, and leaving his big boy excited all night, because if that happens, he won't be able to sleep until he calms his big boy down, so at bedtime his fear came true, and he couldn't close his eyes since he was lying so close to this beauty. So when asking why they should sleep so close to each other, the fox girl replied that in case of danger, even if she is not a tattoo warrior, she will buy time for him to escape. Of course at that moment the most dangerous thing for the guy was her. Bro, this guy is letting me down. These protagonists who are afraid of women make me angry. And right now he's making me really angry, since instead of trying to do something spicy, he's afraid of her, and is trying to control his thoughts. And also his big boy, he even resorted to counting sheep to calm his emotions, but in that the sheep ended up turning into the Enwa. In short, instead of calming down, he ended up making his big boy stay more excited when thinking about the Enwa. Because of that he got frustrated because he was acting like a teenager in puberty. Bro, I don't understand how he managed to think about the Enwa at a moment like that, even with this beautiful fox by his side. He even thought of tell the fox mind to go away so I can sleep in peace. Bro, the protagonist keeps disappointing me. But at least he changed his mind at the end, when he realized that if a Miko is kicked out of the hut by the sorcerer, he will surely be ridiculed by the others, so with no other option, he decided to practice his healing skill. Bro, the Prot had a much better option, but instead he decided to run away from the mine. And since it was night, he couldn't use his skill of healing on his citizens who were injured, so he had to practice on himself, since in order to deal with the unpredictable situations within the tribe, the level of his proficiency of his healing skill must be increased, and so chapter 15 ends up with the Proto using healing magic on himself instead of sleeping with the little fox.
Calling